You guys, it's your girl Nikki here, and I'm back with another video. So yeah, the surroundings are different. We're in a different setting. That means something different is going on. It's not makeup. Today I decided to make a video since we're going into the new year. It's kind of like a new start, and bring you guys a video that I guess I've been wanting to do for a long time. I'm going to be talking about what it is like for me to deal with mental illness, and especially what it's like for me to deal with a mental illness as a Christian. A little disclaimer: I am not a doctor or physician in any way, shape, or form. This is just me wanting to share with you guys or bring you in a little bit personal for me, but I do also think it's a very needed topic to talk about. So yes, if you'd like to see this video, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe first and foremost. So yeah, let's get into this video, you guys. Okay, so yes, I wanted to share with you guys my top 5 downsides to dealing with anxiety, depression, and PTSD. As I've been diagnosed with anxiety, depression, well, generalized anxiety, depression, and PTSD. So I just wanted to share my 5 downfalls, and to combat those 5 downfalls, I wanted to share with you guys either what I've learned, some things that I've learned, how to deal with it better, and just how I deal with it being a Christian. Because, you know, Christians get this perception that, you know, once you're saved, you won't have to deal with this or deal with that. Some people have that perception. I'm not going to be getting like totally in depth with a lot of things, but I think for the most part I've, you know, made everything here. So to me, dealing with illness or whether it's mental, physical, like it's like an all around difficult task. It's really like a day-to-day basis. Like you really don't know. I mean, you could pretty much gauge where your mood is headed, but sometimes, like for me, it just hits me out of nowhere. First of all, if you don't know what PTSD, depression, and anxiety is, I do want to let you know. So PTSD is a post-traumatic stress disorder. It occurs in people who have either experienced or witnessed a traumatic event. So what that consists of is you will experience flashbacks, nightmares, emotional numbness, avoidance of places and people. Depression by definition, is a mood disorder that causes a feeling of sadness and loss of interest. It affects how you feel, think, and behave. Anxiety is, by definition, a feeling or worry of nervousness or excessive uneasiness. So it can cause you to be compulsive in behavior or even panic. So those are the 3 things that I have been diagnosed with. So before I get into the facts, I guess I'd give you like a slight backstory, kind of bring you up to how I came to the conclusion that, you know, I needed to get some help. So for me, growing up, like it was always difficult, I guess, because I grew up without my mom, and just that whole situation kind of kept me at a dark distance place as well. But I always felt like, even just growing up, that something was wrong. Like I couldn't concentrate. Like that was like the number one thing, is I was not able to concentrate very long, and I would just like get these spurts where I'd be like, oh, this seems like a good idea, and I put my all into it, and like I lose interest like so fast. I noticed it as a kid, and I just always felt like, man, like why is it that I can't concentrate? Like I would literally be sitting there, and I'm just like so easily distracted by just my thoughts or other things going on around me. It was just so very difficult to stay concentrated on something. So of course you can imagine that affect, you know, my learning, that affect relationships. Even relationships was just like an attention thing for me. Just the interest to even do anything, or, you know, go around people, or I either had an interest of wanting to be motivated to do things. I would find myself feeling sad out of nowhere. Those are some things that now that I'm like open to healing from this, that I'm just now realizing like, oh man, you know, the signs was always there. Well, yeah, and a lot of other things I went through as a kid, but that I definitely know contribute to me developing these illnesses. The longer an individual holds in the type of information that I had to hold in for so long and suppress, it can alter a lot of things in your brain. When I actually got diagnosed, and it's, was diagnosed to me, that it actually became a reality, if that makes sense. My top 5 downsides, and I definitely know it's a lot more. The number 1 is not knowing when it will hit you. When your depression will come out of nowhere. Just the house chores for me sometimes can cause me to go into depression. Anxiety, so much anxiety it gives me. I'm one of those people that struggle with having to, I have to check everything off my to-do list, no matter how difficult the day is. In doing that, I end up overwhelming myself. The littlest thing can send me into a depression. Just having to go through those modes, those depression downs, while trying to get up and parent a kid, I feel like that's the hardest. I found myself in tears some mornings, I just don't want to get up, but just having to force my body to get up. And I'm thankful for that, that I do have that motivation to get up. Feet are so heavy, I just want to lay in the bed, and they're gonna last either. I have learned tactics to where I notice now that I'm not in them for so long, and it doesn't the longer that I'm in that mode, of course it's going to be difficult for me and my family. Learn the tactics and certain things that I can do to help me bring me out of those episodes before a long time has went past. Number 2, not being able to explain what you go through mentally, dealing with these things, these illnesses, to someone else. To me, I do feel like all of us have some form of anxiety, some form of, we'll have a period of time where we get sad. It's at a certain level, it is something that is very difficult to control. So with that being said, I am totally here for, as individuals, we are it is healthy for us to deal with our issues head on and not use it as a crutch throughout life to treat people a certain type of way. I do feel like when somebody hasn't been through exactly what you've been through, or even how you've been through it, there is a level that they can actually relate on. So yes, the sympathy part of us, that if we hear somebody struggle or what they've been through, we have a sympathy part, or should I say most of us have a sympathy part where we can feel sorry for that individual and imagine, or can't imagine how they feel because of what they've been through, because that's why we say that. I can't imagine how you feel, because we have yet to experience it, right? I do think we could all relate on that level, but as far as relating on a level of just really understanding the struggle and the effects that this trauma has had on this individual's mind and body, they can't get to, they can't understand, and that's fine. It's a lot of things that I don't understand because I haven't experienced those things. Definitely have sympathy for an individual that may be going through something that I have not been through. Such traumatic trauma, it does physically alter the way that individual's brain receives things, processes things, and so forth. Read that the longer an individual suppresses trauma and just deals with it eternally, the more of a imbalance that they get. It's a chemical imbalance you get in your brain. That, for me itself, just thinking about changing the brain, God is already just trying to change it and rethink it and reshape it is a difficult task in its own. I find it very difficult trying to explain to some people, why I may be a little bit more emotional, or why that may have hurt my feelings more than the average person. Not saying that they're wrong or I'm right, but it can be frustrating. You get frustrated with it. My number 3, my ability to get close to people. I feel like I've always been kind of reserved and put off by myself. As a kid, dealing with what I was dealing with, you kind of feel like your whole soul got ripped out your body. Kind of lose yourself. Real hard for me to open up and just get close. It was always a trust thing for me. And of course that made it very difficult for me to get close to a lot of people. Growing up, I did have a best friend, and she was the only one I hung out with for me, in my mind, just creating, it was like that, just creating or putting the energy into learning somebody new, for me it just sounded exhausted. So I just kind of didn't bother with it too much. Not because I didn't want to put in the effort, but it was just like I knew that I wasn't going to trust them, and that was just going to cause me, you know, to worry and have anxiety more, worried about, you know, how this individual is taking my loyalty. So it was just a lot in my mind. I think I always felt like if I thought about the situation in a negative light, then it would prevent me from ever getting hurt. Like, I already have it like on the forefront of my mind, like trying to essentially prevent my hurt that I thought that was going to occur through these relationships. You know, it would drive a wedge. It would definitely drive a wedge, because at that point now I'm creating negative scenarios in my mind, because I've already thought and told myself I was going to think of this situation in a negative light to prevent possible harm in the future. So number 4 is emotional disconnect. I mean, I kid you not, like, if you weren't like family or somebody I had to see every day, and we got into it, and it may have been my fault or your fault, I was like, it was so easy for me to just disconnect. Like, I think for me, because I turned my emotions off at such a young age and for so long, that I became emotionally numb to a sense. It's just real difficult for me to care. I mean, I try to do a self-check with myself all the time. You know, I talk to God all the time, like, God, why can't I just cut people off like so easy and just go through life and be fine with it? And, you know, granted, some people need to be cut out of your life, you know, granted, but depending on the situation, if it's, you know, if it's that big of a deal or not. So I do think it's a balance to it, and I do think I definitely try to keep that in mind. But like another part of that question was emotional disconnect and also physical contact. I have 2 sons. One of my sons he comes about right here to me. So I believe like a lot of times I struggle with like him hugging me. Your body holds memories, you know, and I have a lot of not so happy memories, you know. Certain parts of my body being touched like makes me very, very uncomfortable. I'm in the presence of like a man that I don't know. It's very hard for me to give contact. I would not even just say men, like to people I don't know in general. It's very hard for me to give you contact. I mean, it's very few people eye-to-eye contact. So I really struggle. I really struggle with that. Struggle with just not being able to explain to them that, you know, it's nothing against y'all. I love y'all. I want love from y'all. And whatever I gotta do to be able to get there, like, I'm willing. And just not being able to explain to them my truth. My husband will like touch me in a way, and it'll just, you know, it's definitely like that thing you like, your body just reacts, and then your mind goes into this closed off space, and you just like, dang, why did I just freak out like that? And yeah, and it causes distance, and it causes a lot of maybe that other person feeling like they did something wrong. The number 5 thing that I deal with so often now, but definitely growing up, I dealt with this why me. I mean, this anger of just like, why? Like, why? You know, times I'll sit and I'll just be thinking like, man, I wonder what kind of woman I would be if this would have never happened to me. I wonder what kind of woman I would be. Would I be better? Is that the better version for my family? Like, I just started like thinking about all this stuff, and then of course it'll cause anger to boil up in me and towards God. You know, I would just be angry at God, like, why? I remember so many times in tears, like, why did you choose me to be these kids' mom? Like, goodness, like, why? I'm freaking messed up in the head here. I would just ask myself that, and of course that'll cause me to start having insecurities about myself, doubting myself, just not feeling adequate. I'm gonna combat those 5s with either the things that I've learned on each subject going through my healing journey, or ways and tips that you can that I've kind of did going through my journey, and just how to better manage those triggers or those down days and down moments that you have dealing with these diseases. Foremost, I would advise you guys to know what your triggers are. Recognize in a moment when you get triggered, or when something if this is gonna happen and it's gonna cause you to be sad and you're gonna go into a spiral down to a depression episode, I would suggest that you just try to figure out those triggers. I know what my triggers are. I know what's going to give me anxiety. I recognize my triggers now. I've done as an individual is I avoid as many triggers as I can. So some triggers I can't really control because they just come out of nowhere. But the ones that I know that I can control, I decide for myself. In the past, I feel like I have not thought about myself in that sense, and I think it kind of made a lot of things worse. So yeah, I don't care what nobody got to say. Like, sometimes people are not going to understand where you coming from, and that's okay. And I have to tell myself that is okay. Just advise you that when you're dealing with these illnesses, do what's best for you. I feel like for me in my journey, I just had to finally trust God's process. Healing process for me started about 2 years ago. And it has been a whirlwind emotionally for me. What has helped me with a lot of relationships that I've developed now, as far as the trust part, is I trust God. Because I want to live in my truth and be healed. When I open up and talk to individuals about it, it kind of helps me heal. It's kind of like telling my testimony. I can be perceived a certain type of way until you get to know me. There are people, you can talk to about X, Y, and Z, and there's people that you can't. Open with trusting individuals. I've gained so many great relationships, I never thought I would have. Just giving a little backstory when you meeting somebody about yourself, I find that it kind of helps them better understand you. You walk away with a better understanding of who I am. So number 4, I told myself, take your time, Nicole. Getting through this type of thing is not easy. Some people, it takes years to even get a breakthrough. I have to just tell myself that it's a process. It's a process. I definitely know that I'm definitely needing more work. It's not going to be like an overnight thing. So be honest with yourself. Be transparent with those individuals you decide to trust. Don't let anyone tell you should be over that or that shouldn't bother you. Take your time. Trust in your process. Everybody else's journey is not going to be yours. Don't be too hard on yourself. And yeah, just keep going. Keep picking yourself up. Like, don't stay there too long. Definitely want to say, I feel like my journey has been very hard, but very rewarding. Why not me? Why not me? I'm no different than the other person that's been through it. God has brought me through it. I mean, when I can think about things and situations I was in as a kid, He's always looked over me and knew that He was going to equip me to be strong enough to go through this journey and this healing journey. Blessed me with an amazing church family that actually got me counseling. Always wanted to go to counseling. I've always wanted to do that. I knew that I needed to do that. It was amazing. It helped me to see a lot of things within myself. It gave me an outlet to actually just be raw and real and talk. Letting me know and assure me it's okay for me to have boundaries with individuals. I have a husband that, yes, he may not fully understand what I'm going through or how it makes me feel or why I think this way, but He's loved me through it. So individuals, just pray for me, real genuinely pray for me in this journey, and just me praying for myself and me and anybody dealing with these illnesses. Sometimes I know you may feel alone, and what I realize is that sometimes I am alone. The emotional, mental roller coaster that you go on dealing with these illnesses on a daily. I know for me, I had to find out that even when this person wasn't available for me to pick up a phone and call them, like my counselor, and I was having trouble in the middle of the day or just on a weekend and they wasn't available, I found out real quick that I have somebody, and his name is God, answer and be willing to listen any time of day. So I just suggest that get a journal, write it down, write down how you feel, write down how you feel, write down how this thing is making you feel. Just write. If you can't talk to someone, you know, I could not go on this journey without God's grace and his love that he's had on my life. And so I'm just very thankful for that as well. I want to leave you guys with saying, if you haven't given your life to Christ, I encourage you to do so today. It's okay to have these issues, these mental illnesses. Father in heaven that is willing to walk us through our diseases, walk us through our illnesses, and provide us with the strength that we need. It does feel like a lonely journey at times. It's the process of our life, and don't ever be ashamed to be who you are. That's another big lesson that I've learned, is just being Nicole, and that's all I can be, and stop trying to be something that you're not. It seems like no one else cares. Just know that there are people out here that's going through it with you, and know that you're not alone, and that God has a plan for your life. He has a plan for your life. I'll leave you guys with this. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This was me just being a little bit more intimate and personal with you guys. I want to leave you with this. If you take nothing else from my videos, remember that God loves you, I love you, and it's important that we love ourselves.